So, protests in Dehradun and several parts of Uttarakhand have been making headlines for quite some time now. Locals, activists, and environmentalists have been staging protests to save trees and the environment in the state. Now, to understand why some decisions by the Uttarakhand government have raised concerns over the ecological balance in Uttarakhand, we are in conversation with Ritwik Datta, who specializes in environmental litigation. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and speaking to me. So I'd first like to begin by asking, the Uttarakhand State Wildlife Board has decided to denotify the Shivalik Elephant Reserve to make way for the expansion of Dehradun Airport. Now, to begin with, is this move even legal, and what is the impact of this decision on the forest area?
See, first of all, the notification for an elephant reserve is made by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, that is the central government. Right. So what is notified by the central government can only be denotified by the central government. Right. So firstly, irrespective of whatever they've done, the fact is the one who notifies can denotify. Okay. So therefore, there is no provision in any law empowering the state government to have a superior power vis-a-vis the central government. It is again the federal nature of the constitution itself. Right. Second is, the decision has been taken by a body called the State Board for Wildlife. The word is very important. It is a board for wildlife. It is not a board against wildlife. Yes. Right. So you have a chief wildlife warden, who is part of it. You have the chief minister who is part of it. And as a statutory board, right, all its powers, functions, and duties are prescribed in the Wildlife Protection Act. Yes. And the Wildlife Protection Act very clearly says that the state board shall have the following powers and functions. The first is to take all such measures that are necessary for the purpose of protection, conservation of wildlife, and specially protected areas, which is national parks, sanctuaries, conservation reserve, and community reserve. Next is to amend any schedule, especially Schedule 4, right, of the act itself. Third is, in respect of harmonizing the need of tribals with that of wildlife conservation, right? And the fourth power that is given is any such matters on which the state government seeks the advice for the purpose of protection and conservation of wildlife. Yes. Now, it's very clear, it can only do an action which is for the purpose of conservation and protection of wildlife. Yes. Right. The action to denotify by no stretch of imagination can be regarded of an elephant reserve where you remove the protection cover can by no stretch of imagination be regarded as an action for protection and conservation of forest. So therefore, in terms of the statutory provision, you see, irrespective of the merits of the decision, the state board has no jurisdiction to even entertain a proposal for denotification of any protected elephant reserve, tiger reserve. So it's an illegal action on the part of the state itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sir, now the recently proposed bit of land falls in the sensitive zone of the Shivalik forest area. So what does this mean for the species or the wildlife that live there and are dependent on the forest reserve or the area per se?
See, the fact is that, an area is sensitive and ecologically important, irrespective of whether the government notifies it or not. Yes. See, nature does not depend on a government's order. Yes. If a river is there and a forest is there, it does not need the government to recognize it. Right. It's a process of evolution that has happened. So the problem today is that an elephant reserve had an extremely low level of protection. You see, in the scheme of protection that is there, elephant reserve is a very, very low category of protection. And even that limited category is been done away with, is a very, very, regressive state of affairs. And especially the issue is not about wildlife. The problem is that if you, disrupt the corridors, disrupt the habitats and destroy the traditional habitats of these animals, you are also aggravating the human-animal conflict. Yes. You see, the user of an airport, which is actually the reason indirectly to denotify, there will be few passengers who might come in additional, but we'll have to also factor in the crop loss that will take place, the human death that will take place. We never look at that. Human animal conflict is a huge cause of not only death, but loss of crops, habitation, houses, settlements. It disrupts the entire agricultural pattern of human beings that are there. So somebody has to pay the price of this greed. You have a perfectly functioning airport. It can very well meet the demands. So to actually cut down a forest, remove the protective cover, is actually damaging. And at the end, it is not the elephant that is going to suffer. It is actually people who are going to suffer.
Absolutely. So last month, in the month of October, I remember thousands of people had gathered in the Thano region of Dehradun, opposing the cutting down of over 10,000 trees, which was for the expansion of the Dehradun airport, as you mentioned. Can we say that the state government's priority or the central government's priority is not the environment, but development?
See, I would say that, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy to, be informed that the priority of the state and the center is development. Really speaking, is destruction of a forest development? Is dirty air development? Is, finishing off an entire area which recharges water development? At the end of it, human societies have survived and lived for millions of years or thousands of years without airports. But tell me one day where human societies have lived without air or water. So the question today is that when we set up an industry which produces goods, we call it as a development. When we set up an airport, we call it as a development. But why are we not calling trees which produce oxygen? Right?
Absolutely.
Or mountains and ecosystem and wetlands which store water and gives us return throughout the year also as development. So Absolutely. It is an oxygen producing factory is what a forest is, right? And anybody can tell you that human societies have survived without an airport. It cannot survive without oxygen for even a day. So therefore, if it was development has to be understood in a comprehensive manner. Development has been confused with economic growth and private profit. That is not development. And therefore, nowhere in the world has this kind of destruction led to development. That's why Absolutely. All our poorest places in the country are where the mining is taking place. Those would be the most developed part of the world, of the country. They are not. So my answer to that is, this is not development. It is a private profit and a commercial interest that is there.
Absolutely, sir. I think you pointed out the right thing, how there is a difference between development and economic growth. Also, sir, at a time when there are elaborate conversations around ecological balance, climate change, and much more, why are we taking decisions that will harm the environment and the wildlife and the species that are, dependent on the wildlife? Are there no alternatives for such projects?
See, the point today is that nobody is interested in alternatives because, the whole economy is based on how much you consume.
Right.
So therefore, if you build an airport, you build road, there'll be somebody who will buy the steel, buy the cement, buy all of it. So the alternative is definitely there, but nobody wants to actually look into it because there is no easy money that is there. Right. And so therefore, the ones who are deciding on the fate are living in the cities. They are not dependent on the forest directly. So in a way, it is mandatorily required under the law to look at alternatives. The world over, we know that if you expand an airport, how many Indians can actually afford an airport to actually fly? With all of it across, it has been regarded that, you need to increase other forms of transport, but air is not a mode that can actually be used. But we do not look at that. We do not look at how we can optimize all of it. We immediately go for the least possible or option that is the easiest option that is there is destroy and expand and use all your resources.
Right. So experts believe that because of this decision or the expansion, there will be, as you earlier mentioned, there will be larger chances of animal-human conflict. How are we prepared to tackle that if this is implemented?
See, the first and foremost, there is no preparation. You see, the fact is that today, the fact is that we will be able to deal with human-animal conflict when a diversion of this amount of forest land and others take place, only if we recognize that there are elephants. Right. You know, if we recognize that there will be a problem. You know, you have the chief wildlife warden of the state, Mr. Suhag, who says what will happen to the development of the state, you know, if you have elephant reserves and butterfly reserves. And trust me, you know, when it comes to the documents, this very same forest officers will say that the entire elephant reserve has no elephants. You see, so they will not recognize the existence of species. All across India, the best forests are diverted, in which the forest department will mention that this area only has rat, mice, dog, and cows. So we do not recognize the problem. If we don't recognize the problem, we will never be able to mitigate the problem, right? So human-animal conflict will happen. You know, 5 elephants will die. 3 elephants will be rescued. You know, everybody will jump on Twitter with a lot of congratulatory email, you know, social media posts that we have rescued an elephant, right? And, you know, conservation organization, rescue centers will make a lot of funds out of it. But the fact is, at the root, nobody is going to address the issue of habitat loss. We will end up rescuing more and more, but we will never look at it that why does an elephant need to be rescued? It needs to be rescued because you have taken away its habitat. Right. And it's a politically uncomfortable stand for organization to take a stand against it. That's why today, you know, not a single national level organization in the country has opposed the move to denotify the elephant reserve. Yes. That's the sad part of it. So these things are also happening because of the collective silence of the conservation organizations and large number of people at large also.
Right, sir. Sir, in the end, do you think there are chances that environmental conservation and infrastructural projects can coexist?
See, we must realize that, you know, there cannot be an engineering solution for every environmental problem. Right. We have to recognize that, you know, every elephant and animal cannot be told that you have to use an underpass and overpass. Right, which is constructed. So certain amount of areas will have to be protected, right, in the pristine areas. But certain areas we can have both of them. But it is first of all recognized that maybe we have to cover 5 kilometers more. You may have to do 10 kilometers extra. It's very much possible. You look at National Highway, wherever there are villages and cities that come in, they construct, you know, flyovers over them, running into 20 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers. Yes. But when it comes to forest areas, they will never construct that flyover, right? They will never construct. And if they construct, it will be meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, and that too after a strong legal fight. So it's very much possible, but it requires the authority to recognize that just as human beings, I think every animal and every wildlife is also citizen of the country. And as citizens of the country, they have an equal right over the natural environment. And they have equal right not to be disrupted and not to be displaced from the areas of habitation. If we recognize that, you know, then we will be able to have it. Across the world, many nations have done it. But here, we are not addressing because we do not recognize that anybody other than human is a rightful citizens of this country.
Absolutely, sir. I think you made some crucial points, and also at the same time, I'd like to hope that we move towards the path of development without having to give up anything on the environmental front. I'd again like to thank you for taking our time and speaking to me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.